iSpeech 1315, and welcome to the lecture videos for chapter 19. And I actually wrapped in chapter 8 with it because it was so short. So chapter 19 is all about group communication, and chapter 8 is all about plagiarism, which I felt was pretty self-explanatory. And I just wanted to add in some little notes about it at the end. I didn't feel like it needed a whole lecture video. So without further ado, I'm going to share my screen and you will then see chapter 19's PowerPoint slides, and we'll get started with the lecture video. Alrighty, chapter 19, speaking in groups. So when you are speaking in groups, there is a group IQ. So according to Yale psychologist Robert Sternberg, a group often has an IQ or an intelligence level that is higher than the IQ of any individual in the group. It is better to have a group working on a problem rather than just one person, because more minds on a problem will probably lead to more creative solutions and a more effective solution. When you're speaking in groups, a common time when you will be speaking in groups is during meetings. So the meetings need to be effective. So this chapter focuses on meetings, the means by which small groups do their collective work. Let's go into different responsibilities associated with those meetings. One, we're going to first start off with the responsibility of the leader. The leader is responsible for setting an agenda. This is essentially kind of like an overview of what the meeting is going to be about. So they'll discuss the first item of business, the second item of business, and the third item of business. They essentially make sure that if you're having a meeting about billing for the month, that you're not spending 45 minutes of it talking about the best ice cream shop to go to in town. They just make sure kind of the agenda or the roadmap is adhered to throughout the meeting. They make sure that the meeting starts on time. They make sure that minutes are kept. Minutes are essentially notes or some type of recording of the meeting. They may physically record the meeting with a camera, or they may ask someone, such as a secretary or an assistant or someone in the audience, to take notes related to the meeting. That way, if they ever need to go back and see what they talked about 3 months ago, they can pull that up. Or if someone has missed the meeting, they can give them that information. They also inform members about purpose and scope. So kind of very similarly, they make sure that the main mission and goal of the meeting is communicated effectively to all the team members. And as kind of known or ensued from everything else, they guide the discussion. They make sure that the meeting ends on time, and they make sure to follow up with any additional tasks that need to be conducted. They do an overview, or they'll send the summary of the minutes to everyone else in the group. But not only does the leader have responsibilities in meetings, so do the participants and the audience members within the meeting. When you're a participant of a meeting, you prepare for the meeting. So you should prepare any documents that need to be done. If you have to present, you need to prepare a presentation. You need to ensure that you arrive on time so that you don't disrupt the meeting or cause a delay in content being shared. You need to participate in the discussion. So, if you are in a group of 10 individuals and your boss asks for feedback or for any creative ideas, this is when you would essentially add your 2 cents, right? So you need to participate in any discussions that are held, and you need to respect other members. So obviously, if your boss says, hey, what do you guys think about us switching from doing all of our meetings on Zoom to WebEx, right? Let's say you are a huge advocate for Zoom, and Susie Q is a huge advocate for WebEx. You need to be respectful of the other audience member and listen to what they have to say regarding WebEx. Even though it's not your particular choice of favor for videos recording or video meetings, sorry, you need to respect and hear what they have to say, because they have a right to an opinion as well. Make sure that you don't monopolize the meeting. What this means is that you don't talk over people, you don't take up all the attention. So going back to that same example of if your boss says, hey, what type of platform do you think we should use for video meetings? Do not spend, if they have allocated 10 to 15 minutes to discuss this as a team, don't take up 10 of the 15 minutes. Make sure that you allow other people to have a turn. I always say it's best to try and cap yourself at 1 minute to 2 minutes when having a discussion openly, so that other people depending on how big the crowd is or the team meeting is, that they can also include their ideas. Oh, sorry, excuse me. Oh my goodness. Make sure that you stick to the point. You don't go off on a tangent. So this goes back to don't monopolize the meeting, obviously. So if you start talking about why you think Zoom is a really great web platform, that isn't the time for you to talk about a 10-minute long story about how your family members weren't able to use Zoom and you had to teach them how to use Zoom and yada, yada, yada. Stick to the point when you are talking in a meeting. I also encourage you to use the reflective thinking method. This is a step-by-step procedure derived from the writings of the American philosopher John Dewey. The reflective thinking method basically says that there's frequent solution, neat, plausible, and wrong. Is an example given in your textbook, I believe. And then essentially the step one is you define the problem, you analyze the problem, you establish criteria for evaluating a solution, and then suggest possible solutions. Oh my goodness, I am so sorry. I don't know why I'm yawning so much. But essentially, actually, I think I may need to go get some water. So give me 1 second. I'm just going to pause this video and come right back. Okay, and I'm back. I think that helped. Okay, so the reflective thinking method, like I said, you analyze the problem, establish the criteria for establishing a solution, and then suggest possible solutions. You choose the best solution based off of the criteria for evaluating solutions, decide how to implement the solution, and decide how to test the solution. This reflective thinking method can be not only used with individuals, but also within a group thinking method. So leaders may say like, hey, let's employ this reflective thinking method. And it's what's used as the basis for deciding what a solution would be in a team meeting. Group presentations, which will happen often in both your academic and corporate career. Oftentimes you'll have to do team presentations where you work with a lot of different individuals. You may have to also give a group presentation at a symposium. So this is when it's almost like a conference or where a bunch of people come to watch you present, and you may have to work with a group there to present. You may be in group presentations on panel discussions. This is where a group of individuals sit and answer questions or give a presentation to a group of individuals and then answer questions, but they're on a panel. Some panel discussion, just tips as a moderator: brief panel members in advance, prepare and deliver an introduction, and make sure to moderate the discussion and be respectful of all panelists. So think about political debates, right? Very early on in the primaries, you might have 2 or 3 different representatives from all different parties up there, and they are all asked the same question, how would you handle inflation? And each individual gets to answer said question, but it's important that as the moderator or the person asking that question to the panel, make sure to brief all of the panel members in advance of what will be discussed. Make sure that they prepare and deliver an introduction of each individual person. They make sure, like I said, that they moderate the discussion. So if one party's interrupting the other party more, they are the ones that say, excuse me, dear Mr. President or dear Mr. VP, well, I think it's time we move on. This is the time, we've hit time on this discussion. We need to move on to the next question. And then they also are always respectful of all panelists, and they don't let their biases or their opinions get in the way of their discussion with the panelist. As a panelist, not a moderator, so actually think of the president or the vice president on the panel. They prepare notes. They prepare things that they need to be mindful of. They respect the time limits for introductions. So they're not going to, take up 30 minutes to introduce themselves. They're going to allot the time so that they can be introduced and then let their counterpart also introduce themselves. When they discuss things, they should be brief. So they need to hit the question, kind of talk about their solution, talk about their rationale, and then summarize. And then they always also need to stay on subject. As always, we conclude a chapter with some tips for your career. Tip 1 is to always strive to improve your communication skills. I can't tell you or implore this enough. There is always something you could be doing to improve your communication skills. I have been teaching for over 6 or 7 years now, and I've been learning or studying the art of communication for over 12. And I still learn new things about my communication skills daily. I don't know if I've mentioned this in another video, but our communication skills are learned from our parents. And if you don't overwrite some of those learned behaviors, you're just going to repeat both the positive and the negative communication skills that you probably learned from your parents. So it's always important to be mindful of your communication so that way you can improve it. So that way, if you decide to have children, or even if you just want to make a positive impact on the world, you can, whether it's at your career or with your friends or with your family, you can implement those positive communication skills to essentially kind of be this beacon that other people look out or look up towards in terms of communication skills. My second tip is to always remember the essentials, is focus on the audience. I've said it so many times in these videos. Make sure to tell the story and not just regurgitate information. There's always a story behind what everybody's trying to say. And then, as always, never go over the time limit. That is all I have for chapter 19 regarding groups. I just wanted to quickly discuss plagiarism. I didn't want to pull up the slides for this. Here, let me expand my screen. I didn't want to pull up the slides for this just because I feel like plagiarism is something that we've been hearing about ever since we were in grade school or high school, where it's like, yeah, don't plagiarize, right? Don't copy and paste. But I just kind of wanted to talk about what are some of the implications for plagiarizing in your academic setting versus your corporate setting. So in the academic realm, obviously, you probably know because you all are students, you've taken courses here, but if you copy and paste, it's very quickly, as instructors, we're able to quickly tell. We have platforms such as Turnitin that we can run your document through to see how much of it was plagiarized. As you all are probably aware, that if you are caught for plagiarism, it's considered academic dishonesty. It does not uphold to the standards of the school. It's unethical, right? Because essentially these are not your ideas if you're plagiarizing, and you're not doing the work that everybody else is to learn. And you're not only doing a disservice to, you're basically doing a big disservice to yourself by just not learning. I think now more than ever, it's easier to plagiarize, especially with AI. And let me explain a little bit. So if you type into AI, I need to write a paper about supportive communication. AI is going to pull from not only the databases in Google, but it's also going to pull from what other people have inputted into Google or other search platforms. Some of those things that are inputted are not always right, such as let's say there's a blog and someone writes all about social support and they are not credible to write on social support. It's going to pull from that and give you content. And if you just copy and paste that, essentially you're not learning, like I said, and you're not actually like reviewing the content. I think ChatGPT and Copilot and other AI platforms can be really great for brainstorming if you're really stuck, but it should not be a crutch. That's in an academic setting. But what about in a corporate setting? Well, if you go into a corporate setting and you are plagiarizing, it not only looks bad on the company, but it looks bad on you. It not only looks bad on you, but it looks bad on the company. And oftentimes they have a lot less tolerance than academia with plagiarism, especially with journalism in the communication field. So if you ever take a PR class, a public relations class, the first thing that they'll tell you is that if you print anything that is untrue or plagiarized, you are fired and you are blackballed within the industry for the rest of your career. So for example, let's say you're a news reporter and it's 6 a.m. and you got a notification that the president or the president has fallen at a golf course, and you write a whole story about it and you present on it, and 2 hours later it comes back that it was not true. it is not credible. You plagiarized the idea. You did not confirm the idea, and you would most likely get fired. It's not TMZ, right? And even TMZ has some pretty credible stuff where they like do a lot of digging to understand the background behind the information that they've received. If you don't know what TMZ is kind of the celebrity news platform that is essentially where a bunch of people just report on what's going on with celebrities. So they'll say, like Leonardo DiCaprio has a boot on his leg. He tripped playing kickball last week, and they'll have pictures of, Leonardo DiCaprio tripping at kickball and then having a boot on his leg or whatever it might be. But essentially, don't plagiarize. Do not plagiarize. Give credit where credit is due. If you do not get the information from your own brain and write it down, even if you did get information from your own brain and it comes from another source, give it credit. For example, I'm giving a speech here in a few weeks, and I want to open my speech with a story about the benefit of communicating and connecting with a neighbor. And I have the story that I found from a book by Johann Hari, and I'm going to reference him in that speech. I'm not just going to tell the story like I was the reporter who found this awesome story. No, Johann Hari found the story, and I want to share it with you all here today. And I'm obviously not plagiarizing because I'm providing the source of where the information came from. So take a look over the slides. I've included them in the D2L folder. Use them going through your textbook, but essentially I just wanted to come on here and give a little bit of a quicker overview of plagiarism rather than going through the slide deck. I will see you all in the next video. Have a great day. Bye.